Más dilación, porque no quiero ser yo tampoco aquí el protagonista, bueno, pues presentar a mi querida Marie Aguilar, que ya comenté antes, es la Senior Vice President del International Wellbeing Institute y que, bueno, estamos encantados de tenerte aquí como todos los años. Bienvenida.
Gracias. I'm so sweet. I can take this off now, right?
Yes.
Is this working? You guys got my slides? There we go. It has been such a long time, 2 years, and this was the last conference that I did 2 years ago before we all went into lockdown. And it feels so incredibly fantastic to be back together, talking to everybody today about well, and really what's been going on since COVID. How many people here today, this is their first real big event back in person? Wow, quite a few. Welcome back. Feels really nice, doesn't it? Well, we have been really busy. I'm going to talk through today about what we've been doing in the last 2 years and what the progress of WELL has been. As you guys are aware, our mission is to really lead the movement of people first places, really trying to understand how human health can be impacted by the places that we live. And you can see here from the growth that we've had, 2014 we launched the WELL building standard. Back then it was WELL V1. We're now working with WELL V2. We also led a program in 2019 that talked about WELL at scale after we released a program that looked at WELL for master plans, which is called WELL Community. And in 2020, at the response rate, really, of the global pandemic, we released a program called the WELL Health Safety Rating. And that's really about a select number of features that can be addressing the building when people are returning back to work. And we're about to release a couple of very interesting ratings this year called the WELL Performance Rating, the WELL Health Equity Rating, and a point probably later this year, early next year, will be WELL for single-family homes. So we've got a lot of interesting projects going on. And you can see with the track record of the type of projects and programs that we've launched, between 2020 to 2021, we doubled the square footage of our projects. So we're now at 3 billion square feet in over 109 countries. So it's absolutely life-changing, and I would imagine that one of the very small silver linings of COVID is that it has actually placed the importance of healthy buildings and our human health inside the built environment at the top of everyone's conversation. And I think today, more so than ever, we're talking about health across so many different parameters. We used to talk about climate change as a public health issue, and obviously now with the focus that we have on reducing carbon, health is also at the top of that list. But we're also speaking about health and safety, getting people back into buildings, diversity, equity, inclusion, and that was really obvious during COVID-19 that health equity was a problem. The people that come from the most poorest neighborhoods or that didn't have access to good quality air were people that often were sicker than most others. We're also looking at health under the umbrella of mental health and resilience, ESG alignment, and really important employee productivity and engagement, and how are we going to get people interested in coming back to work. And this is really interesting. We've started doing a lot of studies over the last 2 years about companies who have invested in the health of their staff outperform companies of their competitors. So it's really interesting to start to see that when you do invest in people, those companies perform better than others. Now, we're all talking about ESG today. I mean, it has become the topic of conversation, and I think everyone is fairly comfortable with the environmental metrics. We know we've got LEED and we have BREEAM, and we're looking very stringently at how our buildings are performing with energy efficiency, water efficiency, carbon. And governance has been around for a very long time, but the social element has been quite ambiguous. And we at IWBI feel that really health is very underrepresented here, and that in order for us to really help companies understand the value of health, we need to start helping them understand the social metrics, so the human capital metrics that are the benefit, the side benefit of healthy buildings. So we think that we can really help lead the strategy of ESG when it comes to well. And what's been really interesting happening around the world, so if you take, for example, on the left-hand side, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange is now moving away from, not moving away, but including as their social metrics, environmental and social factors, and they're looking to us to help define that. We're looking at the US, who are looking to expand areas like human capital management, and standard-setting agencies like SASB and others are starting to incorporate human capital metrics into their ESG evaluations. So this is where we see the industry moving. But the real benefit now is that we're seeing areas like bonds. So Swire Properties in China has been raising a bond that's over 500 million. And they're allowing parts of the proceeds of that bond to be used for well certification. It's actually stipulated in the bond description. We're also seeing that REITs are securing lower interest rates on loans when they're achieving and proving that well certification is part of the allocation of those funds. So we're starting to see well now being mentioned in the financial markets when it comes to the allocations of bonds and investments. Sorry, I'm just going to go back one. So I just wanted to share a bit of work that we're doing. Probably 2 years ago, Beato, correct me if I'm wrong, we talked about well portfolio. And well portfolio is the opportunity to look at an entire portfolio of buildings through the lens of well. You don't need to get every building certified, but you will come out at the end of the year with a well score. And that score represents the health and well-being of your entire portfolio. And what we're seeing now is that our reporting mechanism that comes out of well portfolio is helping our clients report out on their commitments to health and well-being. So we're seeing this evolution happen. And the people that we're working with to help align those metrics are the key ESG frameworks around the world. So the GRI, the GRESB, IRIS. These folks have come to us to say, look, we understand that social can actually have a huge human capital impact. Help us understand how the metrics of well can provide the data sets that we need to show this movement. One of the other really important factors that I think a lot of companies are looking for today is how are they able to prove their alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals. So about 2 years ago, Well started to work. Well started to work at identifying every single feature that we have in Well and align it with the SDG goals. So we can deliver reports out of Well certification that can prove to a client that they have, through the Well certification features, achieved many of the SDGs that they might be targeting as a corporate requirement. We also have recently completed the Well ESG Reporting Guidebook, which is freely downloadable on site, and it helps you able to communicate or align with whichever company you might be working for or your own company. How do they align their sustainable development goals and their wider ESG goals with the work that they're doing within Well? And what we've seen in the last 2 years has been really incredible. Every single cover that you see here is a Well client who has been able to formally communicate their commitments to Well in their ESG reports, their corporate social responsibility reports, their annual report, and sustainability report. So even without the ESG mechanisms being completely defined, our clients are really advancing their communication strategy. And we'll go through these one by one. So for example, Goldman Sachs has really looked at buildings for Well Health Safety Rating, Well certification, and very clearly defined the importance of these certifications in their annual report. This is all going to be shared to everybody, I'm assuming, Beata, right? So no one's need to copy anything. You can see also Lend-Lease, one of our more important, largest portfolios in Australia, was the first recipient of their Well score. And they could see how this is now improving the sort of asset value of their entire portfolio, being able to communicate what they're doing with ESG and how they're tying that back to staff well-being, staff health, asset health. So we're already seeing this happen at a communication level. SL Green is a very large portfolio in the US, contains 17 buildings around Times Square, including the Empire State Building. And obviously they felt it was really important to be able to show their stakeholders and their investors that health is a critical, important feature for them, not only at the building level, but for the occupants that they bring into their building. So you're all familiar with this. Beato went through the 10 concepts. And we're now seeing that there are multiple ways, multiple entry points for folks to come into the WELL system. It's not just single certification anymore. We have ratings, which are smaller subsets of certification. And we also have the organizational-wide benchmark, which comes out of portfolio. And that's where we're seeing the alignment with reporting and ESG. For those who aren't really familiar, the WELL Health Safety Rating was a tool that identified 15 to 20 features that are specifically about getting a building ready to open in a post-COVID environment. This has reached over 1 billion square feet of project space within 18 months. And this is really about getting people back to work. And this program was designed to be worked at stadium level, restaurants, health clubs, hotels, buildings, and even residential buildings. So as you can see, there's a QR code, and if a building meets the WELL Health Safety requirements, there's a QR code that gets put on the front door. Everyone coming in and out of that building can read the QR code and understand exactly what the building's done when it comes to emergency preparedness, cleaning protocols, what their HR policies are, and really helping build what is typically, a hidden work that was done at the building to be very transparent. This just gives you an idea of some of the projects around the world. The real benefit of the health safety rating is that you could submit one set of documentation for as many as 1,000, 2,000. I'll show you companies that have put in 7,000 assets into this program. And because you're submitting one set of corporate documentation, they receive the same certificate all over their assets. So you can see here the types of projects that we were looking at and the types of developers that are trying to, again, bring their tenants back, make them feel confident that the building is doing what they need to do. Brookfield Properties had 203 locations, both in the US and in Europe. And when you start to look at the financial sector, you can see, JP Morgan Chase, 6,200 assets globally around the world. Citibank, Goldman Sachs, these are folks that have realized that it's absolutely critical for them to be able to communicate the work that was done in-house in these buildings, whether it's from ventilation rates to cleaning protocols to emergency preparedness programs, and providing that data so that it's really clear to everyone who comes into the building how this operates. Bloomberg was a really exciting opportunity for us. 78 of their locations around the world have also achieved the WELL Health Safety Rating. And we're really excited that London, the Citibank City Tower in Canary Wharf Group is going to be the newest WELL Platinum building, and it's one of the largest regeneration projects in the UK. And Citibank has just recently put their entire global portfolio into WELL. Started with WELL Health Safety Rating and are now looking at WELL Portfolio. So I guess what we're starting to see is that clients want different positions about where they want to start their WELL journey. Many of our clients have started with WELL single building certifications, then they started to expand, and now they're looking at organizational-wide portfolios. So Citibank, for example, had started with 2 locations back in the late probably around 2019, and then immediately started realizing that if they go towards portfolio, they get a much wider umbrella of coverage, and they can also communicate to their staff around the world that they have the same benefits. And you can see here that the ESG reporting is coming out naturally from these clients because they feel that they now have something concrete, measurable, third-party reviewed that they can actually communicate to their stakeholders. Goldman Sachs as well. LinkedIn is one of our newest members who started with 1 single office in Shanghai. As soon as COVID hit, the reality is you can't really just have a building where only one headquarter building has the kind of standard that you would like most of your staff to have. Immediately moved to portfolio. And one of the benefits I should state of Well Portfolio is Well Portfolio becomes the umbrella, and all of the ratings and all of the internal programs that we offer are included in the portfolio program. So you don't need to re-register for multiple different projects and programs. It's all covered under the same umbrella. JLL, again, we're seeing incredible growth. They started with just the US and APAC in terms of their portfolio commitment, and then recently expanded that to add 67 other assets in Europe. So I guess we're really seeing a movement from single asset certification to organizations that can embrace Well. It's more of a journey with us. It's not a one-stop experience. We feel that Well is a roadmap that can really look at prioritizing diversity, equity, inclusion, because we're going to have a health equity rating coming out this year. We know that we can address stress and burnout. We know that people are trying to get folks back to work, and the war on talent is going to be very challenging. So what kind of space do you need to create for the people to bring them back to work? And obviously, getting back to work with confidence is key. Just back one, if that's okay. Yeah. Oh. So I think this is a really important slide. And I think all of you who've been on this journey with us over the last 4 to 5 years, our main discussion point was usually with the sustainability driver. You know, who's the person who's driving lead? And if someone's driving lead within a building, they should be thinking about Well. That's starting to really change. We're seeing that human resources is a really important contact for us. They want to bring their staff back. They want their staff to be healthy. We're looking at the CFO because he understands that if he can bring staff back, they're healthy, they're more productive, that has an end benefit for the business. The Chief Diversity Officer wants to make sure that there's equality and equity for all. We're really understanding that Well can drive long-term value across every area inside a business. So we're really seeing this incredible potential for this type of long-term relationship. I've included this slide because I think this is a very recent report that we collaborated with Deloitte on it. This will be obviously released to everybody, but I think it's an important report that starts to talk about how companies like Ernst & Young, Deloitte, PwC are starting to influence the ESG reporting mechanism and helping us understand where health has an impact on the social side. So that's it. I'm really excited to be back. Thank you so much for listening. I'm excited for the rest of this day. And thank you again, Bieto, and all of these incredible sponsors for bringing this event back to life. Thank you.